Welcome to The Real World. My name is Cameron. Thank you so much for joining us on episode 86 of The Real World podcast. We're talking about Kung Fu Panda 4 and our favorite martial arts movies. Thank you so much for joining us here on The Real World podcast. Make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified of all our videos. We're huge movie fanatics here. So if you are a fan of cinema, you're in the right place. We've got podcasts where we go in depth on movies. We discuss top 10 lists, our favorite of specific genres like we're doing today. We discuss specific filmmakers and actors. It's a ton of fun. So if you are into this type of stuff, you're in the right place. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Again, hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified of all our videos. Today, again, we are discussing Kung Fu Panda 4. We're going to give you our thoughts on that film and that franchise. And we're going to discuss our top 5 favorite films in the martial arts genre. But before we do that, let's kick things off as we usually do with some movie news. The third Venom film now has a new title and a new release date. The title is Venom: The Last Dance. And this will close out the Venom trilogy starring Tom Hardy. It will release on October 25th, 2024, moving up from its November 8th release date. So obviously the studio is excited about it. The film is done shooting. It's in post-production. So they feel confident enough to move it up to October 25th, which I think is a smart move, playing into the Halloween season. That movie, I think, is going to do very well at the box office. Maggie Gyllenhaal's directorial debut is a remake of The Bride of Frankenstein, simply titled The Bride. It will release on October 3rd, 2025. They've set an official release date. This remake is starring Christian Bale, Peter Sarsgaard, Annette Bening, and Penelope Cruz. I'm very curious about this remake. I really like the approach that they've taken with the Universal Monsters movies, giving them their own standalone modern reimaginings. The Invisible Man I thought was fantastic. I'm looking forward to Wolfman coming up soon. So this is another one that's on my list of films that I'm very interested in checking out. The Batman Part 2 has been delayed. That's right, it will no longer release in 2025. It's been bumped all the way back a full year to October 2nd, 2026. That is when we will get the sequel to The Batman. Of course, in the meantime, we will get the Penguin series on Max starring Colin Farrell, returning to that role that he originated in the first Batman movie, starring Robert Pattinson, directed by Matt Reeves. Matt Reeves is currently writing the script with Mattson Tomlin, who is a filmmaker that I'm a huge fan of. So I'm really excited to see what those two do collaborating on that project. Again, it will be out in 2026, October 2nd. Ari Aster's contemporary Western Eddington has started production. This is a really interesting filmmaker and a film that I'm very excited to see because I'm a huge fan of the Western genre, and I'm very curious to see what he's going to do with it. This film stars Joaquin Phoenix, Emma Stone, Pedro Pascal, and Austin Butler. This is started production just last week, and so there's no official release date yet, but I would expect it to hit theaters sometime next year. The Man with the Bag is the latest Santa Claus movie in development right now. This film will star Arnold Schwarzenegger as Santa Claus, and Adam Richson will co-star as a thief Santa must work with to reclaim his stolen magical bag. This sounds like a really fascinating idea. Some of these Santa Claus movies really don't work. Some of them work better than others, though. So I'm hopeful that this is going to be a new Christmas classic. All 8 live-action Spider-Man films are returning to theaters April 15th through June 3rd this summer. Very excited to see these back on the big screen as they're intended to be seen. Scarlett Johansson has been offered the lead role in Jurassic City. That's the working title for the next Jurassic Park movie. Scarlett Johansson, of course, is an accomplished actress, starred in many, many films over her career, and this would be the latest big franchise for her to take on after Marvel. So, very curious to see if she does end up getting the role. What type of role is it? what the story is going to be. We know very little about the film other than Gareth Edwards is directing. So that is one we'll have to keep an eye on. Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron is back in development. They announced this a couple years ago with a really cool video. Patty Jenkins letting everyone know that she was working on a Star Wars movie, but the film was put on hold so she could work on Wonder Woman 3. However, since James Gunn has taken over the DC Films studio, Jenkins is back at Lucasfilm working on a draft of the screenplay that she hopes to have done soon so that they can start rolling film very quickly. I am ecstatic about this next Star Wars movie. Jenkins is a great director. And of course, this title has been around for a while in the video games, but doing a movie on this is really, really exciting. A Twilight animated series is in development. That's right. The popular vampire books turned movies are now becoming an animated series. There's no word yet on where they will stream, how many episodes will be produced, or who will voice these iconic characters, but we'll keep our eye out for it. A live-action Teen Titans movie has been added to the DC film slate. This is a hugely popular title from the comics and, of course, most well-known from the animated series Teen Titans and Teen Titans Go. They actually had their own movies already, but this is a live-action film adaptation of the comic books being written by the same writer who's penning the script for Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. I am very excited to see these characters on the big screen for the first time. There's, of course, a series called Titans. So it's not the first time we've seen these characters in live action, but it is the first time they're getting their own live action film. Very curious to see who's going to be in the lineup. Robin, Starfire, Beast Boy, I think are pretty much the staples. Raven is, of course, another very popular character. Cyborg is typically a part of the Teen Titans, although not always. Other characters like Superboy or Wonder Girl could show up here. Aqualad, perhaps. A lot of interesting ways they could go with this. Very interested to see what they do with it. All right, folks, that's it for movie news. Now it's time to jump into our review of Kung Fu Panda 4. All right, folks, Kung Fu Panda 4 is now in theaters. We've got our reaction on the channel right now. We wanted to go a little bit more in depth on our review here. To me, this movie is not as good as the others, so don't get your expectations up too high. If you go in with lower expectations, you'll probably get a lot out of it. There are certainly some funny moments. There's some interesting visuals. There's some fun chase sequences and fight scenes. But overall, it just doesn't quite live up to the first 3 films in the franchise. I really think that was a great trilogy. And this film, again, just doesn't quite live up to it. Bit of a rushed story. It felt like they needed a little bit more time to develop some of the characters and the concepts and the ideas here. There are, like I said, some fun visuals, some fun moments in it. Jack Black is always great. I'm a huge fan of his. I think he did a great job voicing Poe again. This is a role that he says is one of his favorites to play. It's the role of a lifetime is how he's been quoted talking about it before. So obviously he's a fan of the character, wants to continue to play him. But again, I think that the studio just needed to take a little bit more time here and develop everything a little bit further. Feels kind of like a straight to Netflix movie in many ways. Again, just kind of rushed, thrown together. Doesn't really feel like it was necessarily worthy of a big theatrical release. But I'm glad they released it in theaters because families would have a good time, I think, going to see this together. I think it's one that if you have younger children who are into this franchise, they're going to get a kick out of it. But for the adults in the audience, it's lacking a little bit of the magic that was there for the first 3 movies. And it's kind of just fallen off to me since the first. The first is, in my opinion, still the best. The second one is a great sequel. The third one felt like a great conclusion to Poe's story. This is trying to continue it in an interesting way, but it doesn't always deliver. So it's a film that I don't dislike greatly. I'm kind of on the fence. I'm about 2.5 stars on it. Again, I think there's some stuff that's fun to watch. As I mentioned, Jack Black is great. Awkwafina, I think, is funny. And then Viola Davis, to me, was the one who kind of stole the show as the villain. Did a great job there. But again, just none of it was really given enough time to shine. So I wouldn't have minded a longer runtime here for this movie. Usually I'm trying to say that movies need to be a little bit tighter, but again, there's some good lessons to be learned about change and embracing change and things like that. But overall, just didn't get a whole lot out of it. It's not one that I'm looking forward to watching again. If I go to a Kung Fu Panda movie, I'm usually going for that first one, maybe the second one. If I want to watch, the trilogy, I've got, three great movies there. This is one that I probably won't be revisiting anytime soon, at least. So those are kind of my spoiler-free thoughts on Kung Fu Panda 4. If you have a review, if you've seen the movie, we want you to leave it in the comments below. So go ahead down there, type up your review. Let us know what you thought. How many stars would you give it? We want to know all that information in the comments. Make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified of all our videos. Let's jump in now to our main topic, which is our top 5 favorite martial arts movies of all time. All right, so that's it for movie news and our review of Kung Fu Panda 4 now in theaters. Let us know what you think of that movie in the comments below. But let's kick off our discussion on martial arts movies. We're going to do a top 5 list, our favorite martial arts movies of all time. Joining me on this episode is Bert. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How's it going, Cam?
I'm doing well. Thank you again for joining us. Very happy to have you on. We are discussing martial arts movies, which I get the sense that we're both pretty big fans of this genre. We're both big action guys, and
Yeah,
so it should be a fun discussion. All right, well, let's jump right in. I'm going to just talk a little bit about martial arts movies. This is, a genre that's been around for quite a while. Martial arts films or any films which heavily feature fighting styles of Eastern origin, particularly Kung Fu, karate, Taekwondo, those types of things. So hand-to-hand combat is a hallmark of the genre. Of course, the unique melee weapons as well are a major element that they utilize in these types of movies. These films really became more popular around the 1970s under Shaw Brothers Productions. That was a company in Hong Kong, China that produced a lot of these types of movies. The genre kind of split into two categories. So you have what's called the wuxia genre, which are the period films. So they take place in the history. They kind of typically will involve some kind of fantasy element as well, kind of covering a lot of Chinese history, Chinese folklore, that type of thing. That's the movies where the people are like defying gravity in crazy ways, that kind of stuff. And then you have the kind of more gritty, grounded, more modern kung fu films that Bruce Lee made popular when he was living. And, that's obviously a tradition that's been carried on by the likes of Jackie Chan and Jet Li and Michelle Yeoh, Donnie Yen, all these guys do these types of movies. So now the genre, it's gone global. Obviously Bruce Lee was a big factor in making American audiences interested in that type of movie. So American films are now heavily influenced by and inspired by these types of films. So it's fun to rewatch. I got to rewatch several of these this week. Some of the older ones I've got here on Blu-ray, which we'll discuss, and then some of the more modern ones. It's always interesting to see kind of how a genre evolves over time and how it changes and how
yeah,
different filmmakers and actors kind of bring different elements of it. Um, I'm not including any samurai movies. That's more of a Japanese kind of thing. It's a
mm,
slightly separate genre. So I
sure.
tried to stick to more, kung fu based martial arts movies. I wanted my list to really include all aspects and eras of the genre. So it's a pretty varied list. So Bert, give us some of your thoughts on this genre, the martial arts films.
Yeah, I was thinking about what goes into a martial arts film to make it great, and a bit of this is preference, of course. So to me, I'm less of the defying gravity type. I think it's best to me for it works more for me when there's minimal wires that are being
Right.
used. Like
Yeah.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I saw that in the theater, and I just was not really feeling that at all. It's just
Right.
not my kind of. That's just not my preference. Um, to me, I think what makes martial arts effective is when the punches and kicks really land, and the whole point is that it's if it's rooted in gravity, they're going to land harder, I think. And so when you sort of remove gravity and they're sort of floating, and there's obviously wires that are digitally erased or whatnot,
Right.
it just kind
Right.
of takes away that effect to me. And then second, obviously all the fighting in these movies it's choreographed. It's not like they
Right.
set two actors, fighters in front of the camera and say, okay, let's just see what comes out of this. No, it's always choreographed, right?
Yes,
So I
yes.
think it's how good can you make it look even though it's choreographed?
Right.
Like you
Yes.
don't want it to look choreographed most of the time, right?
Exactly.
And so how well do they pull that off? And or if it's comedy, obviously a lot of Jackie Chan stuff. How well does the action within the scene make you laugh?
Yeah, right, right.
uh,
Exactly.
yeah, and then thirdly, I look at sort of what new stuff is brought to the genre because there's a lot of action scenes where there's just a couple people fighting, but what's new about it? Is there a unique stunt or style that is brought to it? So those are things that I look for. Um, it's interesting. I watched a lot of foreign films in prep for this, a lot of foreign martial arts films, and it's difficult. Some of them I'll mention because I did like, but it's just tricky with the dubbing. The
Right.
dubbing
Yeah,
often the acting is not. Or the voice acting is not good,
sure.
but
Yes.
I still almost prefer that. But then it just kind of comes off a little wonky because the voice work is a little weird for what you're seeing on screen. And then,
Right.
the caption version, then I'm having to read, and then it's taking me away from the action. And then
Yeah.
sometimes the captions don't translate correctly.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
it's tricky, but even still, there are some of those that I found that were really excellent. That I'll mention. Um, I do prefer the more stylized martial arts films as opposed to the ones that are sort of rooted in culture. Asian culture. I mean, to some extent, I understand it, but it is a world away, from
Yeah,
us. And I
definitely.
I try to understand it, but a lot of times they're doing things that is just like nothing that has to do with like the world that I live in. So I'm trying not to be ignorant of that, but it's
Sure.
just kind of hard to relate to sometimes.
Yep. Yep. Sure.
And then lastly, I tried at least for my top five to not repeat actors,
Mm.
that sort of headline the films, and I still do a little bit, as you'll see, but I didn't want to do, for instance, five Jackie Chan films in my top
Yes.
five.
Yeah, I did the exact same thing actually. Yeah, I did
Uh,
the same thing. I didn't want to have too many of the same like you're saying, the same actor headlining. So yeah, I think pretty much all mine. Well, there's a little bit of crossover in one of them in an interesting way, but
yeah,
yeah, pretty
yeah,
much all of mine are separate kind of leads.
yeah, nice.
Okay, cool. Well, let's go ahead and jump in to honorable mentions. So I've got a few that I'll mention here. One of them, it's kind of like the quintessential martial arts movies in some ways, but then when I was really thinking about it, I was like, yeah, it's not in the same way. It's more of a coming of age film, and that's The Karate Kid,
Oh
which
yeah,
I'm a
yeah,
I'm a
sure.
huge fan of.
Yeah, yeah,
But I just didn't quite consider it because it's not an action movie really. It's like I said,
right,
it's more of
right.
a coming of age kind of drama almost. So
Yeah, I like it
um,
too quite a bit.
yeah, yeah, it's a great movie. I even like the second one. The third one is not great, and then they kind of fall off from there. But yeah, I definitely enjoy those films with Ralph Macchio and Pat Morita. Those are great films. So
How about the new
um,
one with
yeah,
or newer one?
yeah, the Jackie Chan one I actually do like as well. I
Yeah,
thought it was a
yeah,
pretty solid remake. Yep,
right.
for sure. Another one I'll mention is The Raid. The Raid movies are great. This one's from it's a Malaysian film. Just watched this last night. It's just nonstop action. I mean, it's if you want just full blown action, there's really not any character development. There's not much of a story. It's like the cops have to go raid this building. Go. And it's like that's the whole movie. So it's a lot of fun to watch though.
Can I
Um,
chime in on that one
yeah, go
since you're
ahead.
on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to bring that one up too. It's one of my honorable mentions. And
Okay.
I think you had told me about it because I was talking about Dread at one point, the movie Dread. And I
Right.
think you said, have you seen The Raid? Or I think it's called The Raid Redemption, but
Raid Redemption, yeah. Mhm.
it sounds like a sequel, but it's not.
Right, yeah.
The title sounds like a sequel.
Yeah.
And yeah, I agree. What's funny is the beginning of it is I thought it was going to be more of a straight like action film with guns mostly, and then it's like a switch flips, and all of a sudden it's an all out martial arts film,
Yeah, right.
and yeah, it's pretty gory, but it
Yeah,
did win me over with the just absolutely insane stunts. Like I get that they must be using CGI to some extent, but even still,
right.
what these stuntmen do, not just in this movie, but definitely in this movie, The
Yeah.
Raid. I mean, I don't know how they do it without getting injured. It's
I know.
just amazing.
It really is. It really is incredible stuff. So, you had to mention that. One that I like, I don't love it, but I have it here on Blu-ray. You gave it a watch yesterday. It's called Ninja Assassin.
Oh,
And it's interesting. It deals a lot with the kind of gang world of Japan and that kind of thing. And this
mm,
character that's trained since he was very, very young to be this assassin.
mm,
Very gory, maybe a little too much gore even for me. I don't usually mind that as much, but it gets pretty wild, some of these scenes. So I had to bring that one up. And then I have here Jet Li's Fearless. Got to rewatch this. I got to rewatch, this is the director's cut. It actually has three cuts. Has a theatrical cut, an unrated cut, and then the director's cut adds over 35 minutes of footage. So it's a pretty different movie from the theatrical version. It's really good. It's, I think, maybe Jet Li's best performance. He's playing a
oh,
real guy, so it's like a biopic.
okay. Yeah.
And it's definitely worth checking out if you're
Hmm.
into those types of movies. So I would highly recommend that. You already mentioned Crouching Tiger. I like that movie. I haven't actually seen it in a while. I'd like to rewatch it. I don't remember like going crazy over it necessarily, just remember watching it and thinking this is so bizarre. Like I hadn't seen any movie like that before. So it was pretty striking, that film. And so yeah, I think that's it for my honorable mentions here. Bert, you want to give us some of yours?
Yeah, I want to talk about Jackie Chan for a minute,
Yeah,
who I think I believe he worked as a stuntman for Bruce Lee, is
that's
what my
right.
memory
Yep.
says. And just want to mention a couple of his movies. This one came close to my top five, but First Strike, it's kind of
Hmm.
like a B movie, Asian Mission Impossible kind of thing.
Okay.
And there's just some of his stuff, it's so incredibly like you almost need to be a gymnast to do, and it incorporates all this humor in these scenes. And so
Mm-hmm.
First Strike, I think, probably has that from Jackie. It's probably my favorite stunts in a movie that he does.
Okay.
And also really hilarious. There's this scene he does with this ladder where he's swinging around and stuff and jumping in and out of it. And
Wow.
there's a scene where he's on stilts
Oh.
and he fights some guys while he's doing roundhouses with stilts
Oh,
on. So his
wow. That's
extension's
crazy.
like 10 feet out. Just some crazy good stuff.
Right.
Unfortunately, the movies themselves are like they're all right. They're
Sure, sure.
kind of a framework put in so that you can have these action set pieces.
Yes.
That's the main point of it, I think.
Right.
So then I also want to mention another one that's similar is Mr. Nice Guy. Another
Mm,
one where it's another one where there's just a lot of just there's a few key action stunt pieces that are really great.
right.
And Rumble in the Bronx is another one
Oh
too
yeah, I
that's
like
like
that one.
that.
Yep.
Yeah. So
There's one he
then
did while we're on him real quick.
yeah.
Project A.
Oh,
Have you
I
seen
think I've
that
seen
one?
that one. I
That's
think
like a
so.
treasure hunting one. It's kind of
Okay,
Indiana
okay.
Jones-esque. That one's a lot of fun. I like that one.
Yeah, I think I saw that one too. Yeah. By the way, supposedly there's another Karate Kid and Rush Hour coming out this
Yes.
year,
Yes,
I
yes.
think.
They just announced it's going to be him and Ralph Macchio are teaming up for the next Karate Kid, which is
Oh,
going to be interesting. There's going to be a
okay.
new younger kid that I guess they both are training or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, they just announced that not too long ago. Rush Hour, that's been in development for so long. I hope it happens because I really like those three movies, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. And then I've got a couple other I want to mention. Did you have any more though, honorable mentions, or is
No,
that it?
no, that's it for me.
Okay. I just wanted to mention real quick, Steven Seagal. He's a guy
Oh,
that actually apparently was born in Lansing, Michigan, where I spent, I don't
oh,
know, 20 plus years.
interesting.
And he's I saw a few of his movies in the 80s, and at the time I thought they were great movies, and they are still like, I mean, Hard to Kill. Like it was
Hmm,
kind of a fun watch, but I can't really say it's a great movie.
yeah,
And then of course there's that great Mad TV sketch showing the letter boxing where you see like the what do you call it, catering table and all this
right.
stuff
Yes,
amidst that was back when you had the boxed pan and scan DVDs and stuff. So
right, right.
have to throw that in there. It's pretty funny stuff.
Yeah, that was funny.
Um, yeah, and he has kind of a unique style because he does that Aikido stuff where you bend
Hmm.
people's arms in a wrong like the
Oh
wrong way
yeah.
and so that was always pretty interesting.
Yeah, I liked Under Siege. I think that was my favorite Steven Seagal movie I've seen. I haven't seen all of them, but I like Under Siege.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and then I watched a couple Chuck Norris movies.
Hmm.
His Roundhouse is really good, but everything else is kind of bad.
Yeah,
So I don't want to knock the guy. He's legendary, right?
sure,
With the
sure.
jokes, but And then same with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Hmm.
I got halfway through Kickboxer and I really couldn't finish it. It was
Oh, okay.
the acting's just not there.
Yeah, it's
It's
not.
really
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, that and Bloodsport, I think are kind of fun to watch, almost laughing at
Yeah.
them in some
Yeah,
ways.
yeah, yeah.
And there is a really
Exactly.
good fight scene at the end of Kickboxer that I think is actually great. But yeah, I haven't been that impressed with Van Damme or Norris, like you said. I've watched a couple of his movies and he's
Yeah.
super skilled, but yeah, the
Yeah.
movies aren't quite up to par with his martial arts skill level, I would say.
It's tough to be a fighter and then turn into an actor, when
Yeah.
you're going from one area of expertise to another. And
Hmm.
he was super good. I mean, all
Oh
these
yeah.
guys we're going to talk about today are really
Right.
great fighters, but
Hmm.
obviously they wanted to turn him into a movie star, and it doesn't always. I mean, I think the movies made a lot of money back when they came out, but
Sure.
yeah.
Yep.
And then my last honorable mention, I wanted to mention this film Unleashed with Jet Li.
Oh, I like that one. Yeah.
Oh,
It's good.
yeah, man, I'll tell you what. Aside from the fact that I thought Bob Hoskins' performance, he was really good. I just thought it was just a little bit too cartoonish for what they were
Sure.
trying to accomplish.
Right.
Um, so I didn't love where they took his character. He's great though,
Yeah.
if that makes any sense.
Hmm.
But aside from that, this was a really great movie. Morgan Freeman's in it.
Sure.
He's kind of the opposite. He kind of balances out Hoskins, but
Right.
just some. I mean, when Jet Li is unleashed, it's
Yeah.
just an onslaught of just craziness and
Right.
just some great fighting scenes in that one. So I had to mention that one too.
For sure. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that one up. That is a great one. I vividly remember watching that for the first time and be kind of blown away.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, let's move into our top five. Here we go. All right, folks, that's it for honorable mentions. Now we're moving into our top five lists, our favorite martial arts movies of all time. Bert, why don't you go ahead and kick us off with your number five?
Okay. At five, I've got Equilibrium, the
Oh,
uh,
okay. Yeah.
the dystopian film in which feeling is sort of outlawed,
Yep.
and Equilibrium obviously borrows from other films quite a bit, but it's got its own unique style too. Christian Bale plays this cleric, and he has to arrest or execute anyone who's showing feeling because they haven't taken their daily supplement from the government. And so it's just a unique examination of government taking over the country and what that could look like in one of its worst forms, I guess.
Right.
And this is an kind of an interesting one to throw in my top five, but I've just watched it so many times
Yeah.
that, and it's so unique that I really had to. But part of its uniqueness is that it has this. They created their own fighting style called
Right.
gun kata,
Yeah.
which to me is it's part awesome and part almost like unintentionally funny.
Right. Yeah.
It's almost inexplicable as far as how to explain it to people, but but I like that they tried it, and it somewhat succeeds,
Yeah.
and it's so unique. The film's got a great score and some inspired acting from several of the characters. So this one's more of a guilty pleasure, but I encourage everybody to see it because I just think, especially if you like dystopian films, I just think
Yeah.
it's just a fun watch, and it's got a great look to it. And so not the most skilled on the martial arts because
Mm.
I mean the gun kata, I mean it can't exist really. But again, I just appreciate the efforts of trying to come up with something unique like that. So big points for that.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a cool idea, a cool concept that I really think they mostly pull it off. When I watched the movie, I did enjoy watching those sequences
Yeah,
where they would do that kind of stuff. It was really interesting. And yeah, I think we talked pretty extensively about that. Was it on the Dystopian Films podcast we did?
probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. I think so. Go check out that podcast. It's a good one. All right, on to my number five, which is a movie that I greatly enjoy. It's called The Forbidden Kingdom. This
Hmm.
stars Jackie Chan and Jet Li. The first time they'd ever worked together. They'd been trying to work together for like 15 years. They'd had all kinds of
Uh,
different projects that they wanted to do, and it fell through or scheduling conflicts or whatever. But it finally happened here in this movie, which is really cool. This movie, personally, I just really like it. It's really what got me into this genre. When I was a
oh,
teenager, this movie came out in like 2008, I think, and I was obsessed with it. I watched it so many times. I've got probably the whole movie memorized. It's really cool. It's really more of an ode to older kung fu movies and kind of
uh,
It mixes the more fantastical elements in a cool way. It's kind of almost like Wizard of Oz with Kung Fu because it's about this
Hmm.
American kid who gets transported back in time to
Oh,
the kind of ancient Chinese culture, and he's thrown
oh.
into it. And he's a big like Kung Fu movie fan, so he like knows a lot about Kung Fu, but can't really do anything. So they have to train him, and they end up going on this journey to defeat this warlord. And it's kind of classic adventure, kind of hero's journey type of a
Hmm.
story. Definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of Jackie Chan or Jet Li. They're both fantastic here. They're playing very unique roles, kind of challenging themselves a little bit, and they just do a great job. The whole cast is great. It's got some great visuals that they shot it on location in China, so it's some beautiful visuals. It's really, really fun. It's a funny movie. It's an easy one to watch, and it has a great kind of, again, central story to it as well. So yeah, it's really fun. It's a really just enjoyable movie. The director of it, I found out, is Rob Minkoff, who directed The Lion King and Stuart Little.
Hmm.
So he kind of took a different approach here and did a more of an action-driven movie, and he did a great job with it. He got a great team involved. One of the best martial arts kind of stunt coordinators worked on the movie. He's worked with Jackie Chan and Jet Li and their history.
Hmm.
Yeah, just a great looking movie. Again, excellent action sequences. You do get to see Chan and Lee face off against one another, which is a lot
Hmm.
of fun. And so, yeah, definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of this genre. I got to watch it. This Blu-ray has a really cool picture-in-picture commentary where they're kind of showing you
Oh
behind the scenes
yeah.
footage and interviews
Yeah.
with the cast and crew while the movie's going on. I got to check that out yesterday and just made me appreciate the movie even more. So yeah, definitely
Nice.
check out The Forbidden Kingdom if you haven't already. That's my number five. Bert, what do you got at number four?
Well, here I actually decided to put my favorite Jackie Chan movie. So this one's not the most martial arts heavy, but there is
Mhm.
martial arts, and that is the first Rush Hour.
Oh yeah, great movie. Great movie. I've watched
Yeah.
that so many times. It's so funny.
Yeah, yeah, just a great buddy comedy.
Mhm.
And some of the bits, I get the feeling they're sort of born out of improvisation because a lot of it's just sort of
Right.
off the wall kind of stuff.
Sure.
And that's great. The film actually has a decent bad guy, although he's kind of undercooked.
Hmm.
But it's just got some great stunts and again humor with the stunts.
Yeah.
Just like Jackie Chan, what he excels at,
Right.
and everything's like the stunts are sort of sprinkled throughout, and it's just enough to be sort of action and comedy. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I like Rush Hour 2 as well. I
Sure.
didn't love part 3, but I need to watch it again. I remember nothing about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say overall, overall, that's probably my favorite Jackie Chan film, and it does have some martial arts in it, so that's why it's on this list at number 4.
Yeah, it's a great pick. Like I said, I've watched it so many times. The back and forth between him and Chris Tucker. I mean, there's just nothing like it. It's one of the best buddy cop kind of team ups ever. Yeah, I
Yeah,
like all three
yeah.
of them as well. I've got the whole trilogy box set.
Ah,
And they're all really good. Yeah, that first one though, there's something special about that because they kind of hate each other when they first meet each other and they don't get along very well at all.
yeah,
But yeah, like you're saying, there's some really good stunts, particularly towards the end. There's some big stunt work that happens that I think is
yeah,
really spectacular. And I remember him, I think he has to like sneak into the mansion at the beginning of the movie. That's got some really cool moments in it.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, excellent, excellent film. Again, I've watched all those numerous times. So great
yeah.
pick. All right, we're moving on to another one that I kind of briefly mentioned. It's from 2014. It's The Raid 2. So The
Oh,
Raid got a sequel.
I haven't seen
Um,
this.
okay, so you've got to watch this. So if you like the
Oh,
first
okay.
one, this one is like, let's take it to 11. It's kind of like that whole idea of like,
Oh,
okay, we're
okay.
going bigger now. The first one, it's a relentless, like super fast-paced action movie, right? The
Yeah.
second one is different in that it's like 2.5 hours, and it's a much more complicated story. So the police officer that survives the first film, he goes undercover. And so it's a lot more
Mm,
characters, a lot more like relationships and double crosses, and there's a
okay.
lot more to the narrative and the story that's
Hmm,
going on. So
okay.
definitely worth checking out. the action, like I said, it's on par with, if not better than the first because
Hmm.
they have a bigger budget. So there's a
Yeah.
huge car chase in it that is excellent, and there's guys doing martial arts inside the cars as the cars are weaving in and out of traffic.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
pretty crazy. And then there's of course, some hand-to-hand fight scenes, one in a kitchen. There's, a couple of very memorable characters just because of like the weapons they use. Like there's a kid, I call him Bat Boy because he uses this baseball bat in all of his action scenes, and then he's always paired up with this girl that uses hammers. So Bat Boy and Hammer Girl are like, two characters that I really like in this movie. Um, Great stuff. Again, from a story perspective, it's even better. I would say the action is probably even better too. Again, it's a longer movie. It's kind of not quite as fast paced because there's a lot more, again, depth with the characters. You kind of get to know them a little bit better and their backstories and things like that. So it's a different type of movie, but I would say it's as good. I would probably say it is actually a better martial arts movie
Hmm.
overall. So yeah, if you enjoyed the Raid 1, Raid 2 is a must see. I mean, it is excellent, excellent stuff. So definitely check that out and let me know what you think when you watch it.
Yeah, I'll have to find that one for sure.
Yep. Okay, we're on to your number three, Bert. What do you got?
Okay, so this is where I'm going to bring in my Donnie Yen choice, and that is Eep Man or Ip Man, IP
I've
Man.
I've heard it pronounced Yip Man or Ip Man.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
sure
At
which
one
one
point,
is appropriate, but
in one of the sequels, he says his own name, and he says Eep Man or something
Ip
like that.
Man. Yeah, okay.
Uh, and when
Cool.
I've seen this title when I've been come across movie titles in the past, and I had no
Yeah.
idea what it was, and it said IP Man, and I didn't know if we were talking about Internet Protocol or Intellectual Property Man, but apparently it's just
Yeah.
Eep Man or
Right,
Eep
right.
Man. So
Exactly.
that settles it. So, yeah, I didn't know what to expect from this thing, but
Hmm.
obviously a lot of people talk about it, and it is one of those sort of historical ones. But wow,
Hmm.
it really pulled me in
Yeah.
with the story
Hmm.
and how emotional it is. It's just very gripping,
Yep.
and the fights just are epic. I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't seen most probably even of Donnie Yen's movies, but
Sure.
he is so excellent in this,
Hmm.
and his technique is it's almost kind of odd to look at, but then you see how it works when he's fighting. So,
Yeah.
and he's got sort of the patented, bop, 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 when he's punching people, which is,
Right.
it's really fun to try at home too.
Yeah.
Actually, I find that after watching so many of these martial arts films that I could be like around the house doing stuff. I leave the fridge door open, and then the thought comes in my head like, I could push the door shut, or I could roundhouse
Right.
and slam it shut. It starts to permeate your mind a little bit.
Yes. Absolutely.
So the film just Ip Man looks really great. The music is wonderful, just absolutely
Yeah.
great. The
Hmm.
sound design punctuates every fight scene. And this is one of those where there's a lot of cultural differences.
Yeah.
And it was, almost 100 years ago. So
Yeah.
I can't really relate to it a lot, but I can appreciate it. And if it is
Yeah.
historically accurate,
Mhm.
I always appreciate a history lesson.
Oh yeah.
And I think it probably is if I had to guess.
Hmm.
So I appreciated that aspect of it too. But just an all around uh solid film that just kind of came out of nowhere for me. And I mean, I'd put it at 4 stars. I was just really impressed with Ip Man.
Yeah, me too. I really like that movie. I haven't seen the sequels. I hear the sequels are actually very good as well. Like they maintain quality. I know he made at least three or four. So
Yeah,
yeah, I want to check them out.
two and three, I didn't think they were on the same level. Two
Oh,
actually
okay.
starts really good, but
Okay.
they have moments.
Okay.
But I'd rank them a lot. I'd rate them a lot lower.
Okay.
Maybe 2.5, 3 star. Like
Okay.
three has Mike Tyson in it, and he fights
Oh,
Mike Tyson. A little
interesting.
some odd choices,
Yeah.
but not bad. Like I still like them, but to
Right,
me, I
right.
did notice that two and three
Okay.
for me wasn't as good.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
Great. Good to know. Well, I do like the first one, like you said. It's a really good Donnie Yen. He's fantastic. I feel
yeah.
like that role is well suited to him, obviously, and his skills. So, great, awesome. So we're moving on to my number three now, which is my favorite Jackie Chan movie, and that is Police Story.
Okay.
So Police Story and Police Story 2, they're both excellent. I haven't watched three, four, five. I think he's made like 10 of them. I don't know how many, but uh, Police Story, the first one, he directed it. So
Mm,
it's the kind of, I think, one of the first movies he had complete control over. And it's just fantastic. It's everything you like about Jackie Chan in
mm,
one movie. It's very funny. It's not an all-out comedy like Rush Hour necessarily, but it's
yeah,
just,
yeah,
his sensibilities are there.
yeah. Right.
Um, it also has this kind of, just fun police procedural kind of story where he has to protect this witness. She's a
Oh,
witness to a crime, and so he's protecting her, and there's some kind of funny moments between those two. And then, of course, all the bad guys he has to fight is great. The opening sequence is fantastic. It's this huge fight scene on this big hill. It's really,
hmm,
really cool. And then there's this sequence where he's chasing this bus and how he's trying to get on the bus as it's moving and fight the guys on the bus. It's really cool. It's just got some really fun, memorable sequences in it. And the
hmm,
sequel does as well. But I went with the first one just because I think the story's maybe a little bit better. But yeah, I would say it's some of his finest work as actor. Again, he's pulling double duty as director here, so that gives it that extra challenge. And then, obviously he's doing all the stunts himself and he's coordinating all the stunts. So, yeah, it's just great, hilarious, action-packed movie, very entertaining. There's the end sequence at the mall, which every time I'm in a mall, I think about this scene. I'm like, what if two guys started fighting over there? Like, and there's this huge fight scene throughout the mall and some crazy stunts that he does in this mall. So,
is that the
um,
scene where he jumps? Because I think I've seen that before. That
yeah, the
scene.
big scene where he slides down the pole with the light bulbs on
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Uh, Pretty incredible stuff. So yeah, definitely
yeah.
worth checking out. Criterion has this awesome box set with both Police Story 1 and 2 in it, which I would highly recommend. If you're a Jackie Chan fan, I think you won't be disappointed by this. So yeah, Police Story had to make the list. Came out back in 1985, and I think it holds up very well. So definitely check those out. You haven't seen either one of these movies?
No, no, but I liked your video rundown on it,
Oh yeah,
on
just
the
released
channel.
that. Yep, absolutely. Yep, check it out for sure. Okay, well, Bert, we're already at your number two. What do you have as your second favorite martial arts movie of all time?
I've got a Keanu Reeves film
Okay.
with Donnie Yen, and that is
Oh,
John Wick 4.
nice. Great,
Yeah.
great pick. Great pick. I thought it might
Um,
come up. I've got the 4K here.
oh
Great
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, one
I,
of my favorites from last year for sure.
I want to get a box set with all of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so Keanu Reeves, he's not necessarily the best martial artist, most skilled per se, and yet he's been in quite a few that involve martial arts. And th This movie is insane. I just watched it again last night. It's the visual style and the sound
Mm,
design are a huge part of that. I just
mm,
love these scenes that the director has set up and the shot the shot angles and
yeah,
that kind of stuff and the sort of synthesized musical score that's pounding in the background. It's kind of right up my alley and
right.
just some unmatchable stunts, kind of like I was saying in the Raid, where
Mm,
I know they're using CG, but a lot of times, and most of the time, I mean, a real person is being inflicted, harm is being inflicted upon them. I don't know how they do not get hurt.
yeah.
And and then of course, once again, Keanu doing his own stunts.
Mm,
And I think part of it is you look at Keanu, and especially before the first Matrix movie, I never would have thought he would have been casted to do that because
right.
you look at the guy, you don't think, well, that's one, good looking martial artist, or
Right.
you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think that's part of the fun. But
Yeah.
the locations they go to and the
Mm,
sets and set dressings, I mean, everything about this is outstanding. I still don't love the use of the bulletproof suits, but I'm getting used
mm,
to it. I
yeah.
did notice more that so many people are using them in the movie. So
Yeah.
it's the first time I saw it, I didn't really think about that, and I was thinking he's just kind of uses that as sort of like an easy out. But the
Right.
fact is, in this world, like lots of people
Yeah.
use it, so it
Sure.
is more of an even playing field.
Yeah.
And he does still have a little bit too much like premonition ability where he knows right where the guy is going to be at all times, but it's not bad.
Yeah.
And I still don't get the Donnie Yen thing where he's blind and he's playing cards. So I don't know. Regardless of that, this is a
Yeah.
4.5 star film that
Mm,
is campaigning to be a 5 star film.
yeah.
It's just yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of the greatest action stunts I've ever seen in that movie, truly. I mean, they just went all out. Absolutely incredible. He is a black belt. I mean, Keanu, he's put the work in. You can tell. I mean,
Oh yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's
I'm not saying he's bad. I think he's really
right,
good. You know
right.
what I'm
No,
saying
but you're
though.
right. You wouldn't think of him. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's pretty incredible though. What he's done over the course of his career is yeah, just amazing. So excellent. Yeah, great choice. On to my number two. It's a Jet Li film called Hero. Hero
Oh.
is one of my favorite martial arts movies ever. I was vying for that top spot. It's one of the best looking movies, just
Mm,
visually, it's stunning. This
mm,
is it is a wuxia film, so they are doing kind of these gravity defying stunts, you know.
mm.
It's not quite to the extent of Crouching Tiger,
Yeah.
but it just looks incredible. Again,
Hmm.
the use of color, the cinematography is
Yeah.
just really fantastic. And then on top of that, you've got all these incredible, stunts with Jet Li, a lot more weapons here. So they're using swords a lot and spears and different things like that. Donnie Yen does show up here as well.
Oh.
And he has a smaller role, but he's very, very good. It's a really great sequence. He fights him in the rain, and it's just really,
Hmm.
really cool looking.
Okay.
So highly recommend this. It's one of Jet Li's best, again, up there with Fearless, which I mentioned earlier, which he kind of has a lot more to play kind of emotionally with the character in Fearless, but here he's doing some of his best martial arts work.
Wow.
A lot of different locations. You have a whole sequence in the desert, then there's one at like a waterfall, one on a lake, where they're kind of doing that thing where they're running on the water and fighting,
Oh, okay.
which is fun to see. And then, several big like, palaces where they're fighting big armies and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, great mix of characters. It's got a Rashomon style narrative in that it's all in flashback. So it's him
Hmm.
meeting with the Emperor and kind of he gives a tale of how he got there, and then the Emperor kind of tells the tale of how he thinks he got there, and you're not sure who's telling the truth and trying to figure it all out. It's kind of intriguing plot wise, and it's very well edited. So yeah, just a unique movie visually that really just pops, especially in high definition. It really looks incredible. So yeah, Hero is definitely one of my favorites of the genre that I've watched a couple of times. I would consider it a five-star masterpiece of Hong
Wow.
Kong cinema. One thing I'll also mention is the character names, which I think are great because it's all like
Oh.
based on a folklore kind of. They're not supposed. It's not supposed to be grounded and real. So the characters' names are Long Sky,
Hmm.
Flying Snow, and Broken Sword, which I
Okay.
love when they have those cool names like that. Have you seen this one, Bert?
I have not. No, I need to though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely worth checking out. Like I said, it's on the Blu-ray it looks really great. I mean, it's really phenomenal. Again, just the
Nice.
use of color and all that, it's really cool. Different from
I
anything I've seen. So, um,
Yeah. I wanted to say something else about
oh yeah.
Jet Li real quick too.
Mhm.
Have you seen the Lethal Weapon series,
Oh
including
yeah,
part four? I'll
sure.
tell you what, he makes a compelling bad guy.
He does.
I mean I mean he didn't have a lot of scenes, but I mean especially the final fight scene. I mean you just feel like he's gonna just straight up murder
Right.
Murtaugh and Riggs. I mean
Absolutely.
he very convincing. I was very scared of him when in the theater when I was very young watching that movie.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. Yeah, he is great. That was I think his first breakout American film,
Think
if I
so.
remember right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so definitely good stuff. Let's see here. We're on to your number one, Bert. So, what is your favorite martial arts film?
Well, it is in the Matrix series, and it's not my favorite Matrix movie,
Okay.
but the one I'm choosing for the martial arts focus is Matrix Reloaded.
Oh yeah, excellent. Great. There's
Con
some phenomenal stuff in that movie.
well,
Yeah.
it's controversial, and I think that's what I want to more focus on. I mean, I
Hmm.
love the movie. It's in my top 30 or 40 films of all time, I'm sure.
Okay.
And I said before, Keanu, he didn't come from a martial arts background, so it
Right.
just I saw this in the theater, and everyone was just blown away because they couldn't believe that a guy that clearly is not. I mean, this isn't Jackie Chan who's coming,
Right.
to do an American movie. This is a guy
Right.
that's not a martial artist doing
Yeah.
succeeding at a martial arts film. So even the
Yeah.
first Matrix is just was obviously incredibly impressive.
Right.
So and I feel like in Reloaded it just goes all out bonkers on the martial arts. Notably the chateau scene.
Yep.
There's
You're there right
the
now.
right. I'm in that room,
Yeah.
coming to you from that room right now. And then the freeway scene, which turns into
Uh,
the semi truck fight. I mean, because we're talking about
mm,
Lawrence Fishburne is great in it too with the martial arts. Carrie Ann
right.
Moss also.
Yeah.
It's really stylistically is why I find
Mm,
it so compelling because I just enjoy the beauty of the fighting.
mhm.
Not necessarily that it's the grittiest, but
Right.
I just love the visuals
Yeah.
that come across in the fighting.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a somewhat controversial. A lot of people don't like this film, and I've heard many times that people say, "Oh, well, Keanu, he looks like he's CGI'd," and he actually
Mm,
is for part of the scene where he's fighting the 100 agents. It
right.
eventually it sort of I guess evolves into a CGI thing where he's
Yeah.
spinning in the air and that kind of thing.
Right.
But the reason why it works for me is because they're in a computer simulation.
Right.
And
Exactly.
I don't get why people have such a problem with it. Just like
Yeah.
the fact that, like I kind of said before, I don't really care for the ones where it's obviously they're on wires and
Right.
then they take the wires out with CG. Well, the
Yeah.
point here though is this is basically a video game and Neo is
Yes.
like the best character.
Yeah.
So the rules of gravity don't really apply. So that
Right.
works for me.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. They even
so
say he's doing a Superman thing. He's like a superhero. He has these abilities that no one
exactly.
else has. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was curious your thoughts about that because I defend it, but I mean if people don't like it, they don't like it. But
Yeah.
to me, those scenes where he's doing the gravity defying things, um, they work for me, and it just stylistically, it's just so beautiful. All of those scenes,
Yeah, I agree with you. I defend the movie too. I like Reloaded and Revolutions a lot, actually.
Okay.
Um, I think Reloaded. I think I have the most problems with when it comes to the narrative.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
for me it falls apart a little bit there, but
A little bit. Yeah.
the action is phenomenal. And like you're saying, I totally get what they're going for. I mean, it's supposed to be over the top and kind of crazy because it's all happening in a computer and he's unlocked this
Right.
potential that he has to do these crazy things that no one else can do. So, yeah, I've always enjoyed the Matrix sequels. Reloaded has definitely got probably the best action of the trilogy, although I really do like the final Smith battle in the rain. I think that's a really cool looking fight too. It goes
hmm
even kind of crazier with they're
Yeah.
just flying
Yeah.
at each other and doing crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, Reloaded has that good blend of like, like that scene that's folding out behind you there, with all the weapons on the walls they're grabbing and just
hmm
they get so interesting and varied. And then like you're saying, that car chase is an all-timer too. So yeah, I'm a big
Yeah.
fan of Reloaded. It definitely has some of the best martial arts action in it, without a doubt. I think it's a great pick.
Yeah, it's a very ambitious film. It
Yeah.
mostly succeeds. I mean, like you said, the narrative, a little bit of it, kind of falls apart. But
Right.
and for I think this was 2003. Yeah,
Right.
and just what they're able to pull off with the CG. I mean, it's still fairly early on. I mean, just 10
Sure.
years in,
Right.
but I just think even though he may kind of Neo kind of morphs into the video game version or whatnot,
Sure.
uh, what they do with that I think is just so much fun for me at
Yeah.
least. I mean, yeah. So this is a 5-star film for me.
Awesome. Awesome. Great pick. Okay, folks, we're down to my number one martial arts movie. I'm going with the master, Bruce Lee.
Mm,
To me, he's just the best ever. This box set is awesome. I just did a review of this on the channel as well. It's got five of his best movies on it. Before
mhm.
he tragically passed away very young, at the age of 32. I'm about to turn 32 at the end of the month, so some kinship I'm feeling with him this week. But my favorite film of his, after rewatching these, I thought it was Enter the Dragon. Enter the Dragon's like an all-time great film. And it's probably a more well-made film technically. It's his first American film. Warner Brothers produced it, had the biggest budget,
Mm,
had a director who kind of, was a veteran of filmmaking. So that's a great one. Although I went with The Way of the Dragon, which is the film that Bruce Lee himself directed, the only
mm,
film he ever directed and wrote and starred in. So The Way of the Dragon is it's a great movie. It kind of follows the typical kung fu movie plot, which a lot of his movies have, a lot of kind of Jackie Chan's earlier work has. where it's kind of
Hmm.
a guy who, comes from Hong Kong to actually in this one, it's Europe. He goes to Rome and he has relatives there that are running this restaurant. And
Oh,
of course, there's a gang that kind of runs the town, and they're kind of,
yeah.
you know, running the restaurant with the family member, and all kind of chaos ensues, and he has to, fight off all the bad guys and help the good guys. So it's kind of almost like a Western in many ways, where kind of the lone stranger wanders into town and has to fight the bad guys and help the townspeople. It's kind of got that vibe going for it. Uh, this one, I just feel like he put a lot of passion into this. His earlier two films, The Big Boss and Fist of Fury, both great movies made in Hong Kong, was under another director, and he and the director would butt heads a lot on set on
Oh,
kind of vision of what he wanted to do and what the director wanted. So that's why when Way of the Dragon came up, he's like, I'm gonna run the show this time and get to do things the way I want to do it. And I think it works a lot better than those earlier films because, again, he has a lot more personality in this movie.
wow.
I think, there's a lot more humor here. Like you were
Hmm.
saying, Jackie Chan, took a lot of cues from Bruce Lee, particularly when it comes to the fighting, but also when it comes to the kind of humor that he would add into his films as well. So I think that's why this movie works a lot better than his earlier films, is because it's a lot more him in there, and you can tell he's a lot more passionate about it. Um, it's got, of course, fantastic action scenes. He's using the nunchucks in this movie, and all kinds of different things. This is a movie where Chuck Norris debuted actually.
Really?
So yeah, this is Chuck Norris's first film, and he was trained by Bruce Lee directly. And
Wait,
so
in real life we're talking about?
in real
Okay.
life, yes. So he was training
I
under
didn't know
Bruce
that.
Lee. Yeah, yeah. And
Hmm.
so he decided to give him this role. I guess gave his best student a role in the movie, and he's the antagonist, so he's the villain. So these two face off at
Oh,
the end of the film in the Colosseum in Rome, and so it's
really?
this really cool finale.
Wow.
Great, one of the best, I think, fight scenes ever in movies. So. It's really
Wow.
good. Like I said, the movie has, humor throughout it, a good mix of drama in there. Um, I wouldn't say all of the acting is Academy Award worthy necessarily, but it gets the job done. It has a good twist in it as well that I didn't see coming. And like I said, yeah, that final fight scene is an all-timer. So Bruce Lee, I consider him just to be one of the most charismatic actors. He's so interesting and fun to watch. Not to mention lightning fast. I mean, that's what he was really known for was his speed.
Hmm.
It's really crazy to watch on film. And then yeah, this movie, again, I just say this and Enter the Dragon, they're both way up there. This one just to me a little bit gets the edge again because I think his personality comes through a little bit more. And again, he's directing as well, which is an extra challenge. So yeah, from 1972, The Way of the Dragon made my number one martial arts film.
Yeah, that's a good choice. I need to give Bruce Lee a chance a little
Yeah,
bit. I have memories of when I was young. I would sometimes there'd be on a lazy Saturday afternoon, I'd turn on the TV and there would be a badly dubbed
right,
one of his movies with a lot of the cultural things going on. And
right.
I'm a kid, I have no idea what's happening. And
Sure.
I see some fighting, so I'm kind of
Mm,
interested in it. But
hmm
the quality of the TV is probably 240p or something back then,
Right.
and it's full frame, and
Yeah,
not ideal. So I haven't
yeah.
gone back and tried to watch some of his, but now that
Mhm.
I know you're number one, it's probably a good place to start, and I really need to jump in that.
Yeah, if you can find this box set on sale, Criterion, they always do such a fantastic job. I mean, it's a crystal clear image, as clear as it's going to get.
Yeah,
And then, the audio, they have the original Chinese audio. So you don't have to listen to a bad dub if you don't want to.
yeah, yeah.
And I think that helps a lot. So yeah, definitely worth
Nice.
checking out. This is packed full of bonus features too. Again, I went in depth on the video, but some great interviews with Bruce Lee and different people who knew him that are definitely worth checking out. It was really just intriguing listening to him talk about his life and his kind of philosophy on life and martial arts and
Hmm.
filmmaking. It was really cool. Yeah, it's really sad that he didn't live very long at all. Didn't really make a ton of movies, although he was acting since he was an infant. His first
Oh,
movie was when he
wow.
was literally like a baby. He was
Huh.
in some movie, and so he kind of made movies in China for a long time. but really only made, a handful of really great action movies in his
Mm.
day. So, yeah, it was cool revisiting his movies and learning about him this past week. Definitely worth checking out. All right, folks. Well, that's it. That is our top five list. Two quite different lists. I don't think we had any crossover there, which was interesting. That was fun. It's fun to get different sides of things and come out the other side learning a little bit about one another and about these great movies that we can check out now. Make sure you leave your comment below with your top five favorite martial arts films of all time. We want to know what you think about the movies we picked as well. So, are we crazy for putting any of these on our list? Let Bert know how insane he is for putting Matrix Reloaded on the list here. Controversial pick. Um, yeah, definitely leave a comment below. Make sure you hit the like button as well. Hit the bell so you get notified of all our videos. We're almost to 500 subscribers. We're so close. I can taste it. So make sure you hit subscribe. Share this on social media. All of our social media links are in the description below. Bert and I are both on Letterboxd, so you can follow us there. Bert, thanks again for joining me, man. This was a fun episode.
My pleasure.
All right, we'll see you guys next time right here on The Real World.